Shut up and sit down.
Greetings, fellow travelers. Oblyx here, and welcome to my test world. How y'all doing today? So, today I want to take a look at power from the mod Actually Additions. So we're going to step into my evil lab here, not so evil, and take a look at Actually Additions power. I've got a bunch of different setups here for us to take a look at. We're going to start with the basic and go all the way around to the super complex. We're going to look at every power option that Actually Additions affords us. So first off is the coal generator. This is going to be probably the first one you'll make, and it produces 30 CF per tick. Now CF is Actually Additions unit of power. It is equivalent to RF, which everyone is a little bit more familiar with. So if we look at the coal generator, this guy produces 30 CF per tick, and he can burn anything that you can burn in a Minecraft furnace. So all the normal things. So your tools, your sticks, lava buckets, your wooden tools anyway, mushroom blocks, planks, logs, coal, charcoal, all that stuff can be burned in here. And I do have, in this pack, I've got, of course, Actually Additions, and I do have JEI over here, so we can take a look at things if we need to. And I do have in here extra utilities. Now, I'm not using extra utilities for anything other than these energy nulls, which just you can put energy in them and they destroy the energy. And I'm using them for these creative chests. That allows me to put one item in the chest and it just continually replicates that item forever. So, rather than setting up a farm or something, we're just doing that. But everything else we're using in here is Actually Additions. So we're using the lasers to transfer power, items, and fluids. Of course, we have our vanilla stuff like hoppers, and we're using Actually Additions storage crates, for storage, as well as just regular old vanilla chest. So what you'll see beyond these energy nulls and beyond the creative chest, everything is either vanilla Minecraft or Actually Additions. So we're trying to stick to one mod. So we've taken a look at the coal generator. If I disable that hopper, let that hopper flow, we see we just put a lava bucket in there, and that's going to produce, much like a regular Minecraft furnace, that's going to run for a long time, producing 30 RF a tick for quite some time. Now you're going to see that this is not filling up with power because it's all going here into the null, which I am a creative and just destroyed for no reason whatsoever. Oh well, now you'll start to see it fill up. That's a thing that just happened. Anyway, moving on to the next thing. Next is this guy here, which is called the heat collector. And if we take a look at it from the top, you see it's got an orange circle. And you notice it's got 3 lava sources around it, but not one right here. Reason being is this guy will occasionally destroy lava sources around it. Now it uses these lava sources to produce power. So it takes the heat from the lava and just generates power. But every now and then, there used to actually be a lava source here, but every now and then it will destroy the lava source, and you're going to have to replace it. And that's just a thing it does. So I've got some spare ones here. We can always come up and pop a new one down, and it'll keep going. And this guy runs at 40 CF per tick. So a little bit better than the coal generator. But you do need 4 buckets of lava, and it runs for quite some time before it actually eats one of them. And then when it does, you just replace the lava, and it'll keep going at 40 CF per tick. I almost never see anybody using these guys. Occasionally, you'll see somebody use this guy here, but you almost never see anybody use these guys. But no, they are out there and available to you at 40 CF a tech. So next, we have the Bioreactor. Now this guy is quite a bit more complicated. And it's going to take some splaining so that you can understand it. Now see, this guy runs between 4 and 256 CF per tick. So it could be less than the other two, or it could be more. It's kind of hit or miss. So the way this guy works is, if we open up his interface, you'll see he has 8 slots. So it consumes biomaterial. Now biomaterial could be meat, or from mutton to beef to pork to fish. It can consume plant matter from lily pads to leaves, saplings, all manner of biological objects. Anything you can craft, like bread, pumpkin pie. It can consume all those things. What happens is it doesn't care what the material is. Any given material will produce, if you put it in the, it also consumes seeds, by the way, that's another thing. Any material, like say if I take this bread and we drop it in here, it's going to produce 4 CF per tick, because it was bred in one, it was a material, regardless of what the material is, in one slot. Now, the more slots you fill, the more power it produces, but the slots have to be full of different items. You can't just come in here and put oak saplings in all of these and have it go. It's only going to produce 4 CF per tick. If you put a different item in each of the 8 slots, then that's how you get all the way up to that 256 CF per tick. So if you put one unique item, you get 4 CF. 2 is 16, 3 is 36, 4 is 64, 5 unique items is 100 CF per tick, 6 unique items is 144, 7 unique items is 196, and 8 unique items gives you the max of 256 CF per tick. There are some things, some biological things that you would think it should consume that it doesn't. So far I found wheat, vines, and sugar cane and cocoa beans cannot be consumed by this generator here. And there are a couple things that will trip you up if you're not careful. Fish and salmon are considered to be the same thing in this generator. So if you put fish here and salmon here, it doesn't count as 2 unique items. You don't get the 16 RF per tick. You only get 4. It'll consume 1 item at a time. Same with tulips. There's 4 different colors of tulips in Minecraft. If you put the 4 different colors of tulips in here, it will only produce 4 CF per tick. It only uses 1 of them at a time. So be aware of that. Now I've got a whole bunch of seeds here of different types, 8 different types of seeds. And what I'm going to do is drop these in as quick as I can. Now the first one's going to start producing, we're going to see 4 CF per tick down here, but hopefully by the second one I'll have them all in and we'll get the 256. So if I just start throwing these guys in, you see the 4 CF per tick. Once this guy finishes burning down, he's going to consume the next one. You notice that's at 63. He's going to go to 62, and all the rest are at 63, and now you see the full 256 CF per tick. But you notice it burns through much, much faster. So see how much faster it's digging through these guys to produce that 256 CF per tick? So a little bit of a tricky generator to get to use. I've loaded this crate up with all manner of different material piped in here, and if I just throw this, once these guys burn through, it'll start popping new stuff in here. I would recommend, if you were going to use this generator, to have multiple inputs or one really fast input. So if you're using hoppers, I would probably have at least 3 pumping different items into it. Maybe even 4, maybe one on the top, maybe one here, and one on the top, as well as that one. Have 4 different hoppers pushing in at the same time. You could also, if you move this power underneath, you could put a 5th one on there even. That would be helpful, just to keep it burning through different materials. But you're going to have some serious farms to get this much material to keep this guy running. But a max of 256 CF per tick. Now we move on to this guy. Now this guy is the leaf eating generator. Man, it does exactly what is written on the tin. It eats leaves. So it works within a 7-block range. So a 7-block radius around the generator. And it will produce 300 CF per leaf block that it eats. So it's not per tick, it's per leaf block. So if we plant a birch tree, it doesn't matter what kind of tree, you'll see this instantly starts to consume the leaves. And it consumes them pretty darn quick. So you can imagine if you had another one on this side, and just let it go to town on both those trees, and you could produce these trees quick enough. I mean, imagine how much energy you could make. It would be a pretty decent power source at 300 CF per leaf block. So if you had something like an Ender IO farm with maybe some tiny progressions, growth accelerators underneath it to make the trees produce faster, you might be able to keep this guy going pretty good. Or just a huge field of these things with a whole bunch of them. But yeah, you can see it just go to town on knocking these leaves out. Pretty cool to watch, actually. I like the little lasers that shoot out and kind of destroy the leaves. Very cool, very cool. Anyway, moving on. Come down here, and we want to take a look at oil generation. So within Actually Additions, there's a plant. This guy right there, you'll find it growing naturally in the world, and you can harvest it. And when you do, you're going to get seeds, canola seeds, and canola beans, or whatever they are. I don't know what the heck they are. Canola. Let's just call it canola. You can then take these seeds, plant them on farmland like I've done here, and actually grow canola. Now, when you do that, you can use that as a power source. And why do I still have this in my inventory? Get out of my inventory. These are all the armor that Actually Edition has, by the way. You've got black quartz, emerald, obsidian, Restonia, emeradic, Pallas, diamantine, Inori, and void. So it adds 679 new armors, which is pretty cool. So here are the different levels of oil. There are 4 different levels of oil that you can use to produce power within Actually Editions. So there's the basic canola oil. So you take the canola, which we put over here, this guy right here, and you put him in a press, and it turns into this stuff right here. Now, if you refine this liquid, you get refined canola oil, which is this kind of greeny color right here. Then, if you drop in a crystallized seed into the refined oil, you will get the crystallized oil. And if you drop an empowered seed into this, you then get the empowered oil, which is the top tier. So each tier produces more power for longer. And we'll take a look at that here in a minute. So over here, I want to show you, this is the refined oil. Both of these right now are refined oil, and we're going to turn it into the crystallized oil. So just to show you how that works. So I'm going to take a crystallized canola seed, and we'll see how to make those here in a minute. But if I just drop this in here, you see how it instantly turns to that kind of pinky color, right? Same as these guys over here. So this is the original color, and this is now the pinky color, which is the crystallized oil. So both of these guys are the crystallized oil. Now here's an empowered canola seed, and I'll show you how to do those here in a minute too. The empowered canola seed, when you dropped it into the crystallized oil, will turn it into empowered oil. So this is that kind of, little bit reddy color. We're going to drop this empowered seed in. You see it instantly turns into the pink seed, and it does consume it turns into the pink oil and instantly consumes the seed. So you get this kind of hot pink. So this is what it originally looked like. This is the new empowered oil, so the top tier. So let's take a look at how to use all 4 of the different oils and how to set up your generators to use them. Keep in mind, we're just using actually additions with the exception of Extra Utilities Creative Crate or Creative Chest, just so I don't have to set up canola farms. We'll take a look at canola farms down the road, maybe in another tutorial. So this guy here is your press. This is your canola press. Remember we talked about you take the canola, you press it, and it turns into the canola oil. Well, this is the press. So we're just taking it out of our creative chest, putting it into a hopper, and dropping it right into our canola press. Now the canola press does take power to run. You cannot start an oil generator without at least a coal generator or one of these guys over here, the heat collector, the bioreactor, or the leaf eating. You need one of those guys in order to get this going, because he must have power from the start. So with some power and some canola seeds, he's going to produce the canola oil. Now the blue laser is your fluid transfer. Again, the red laser is your power transfer. So we're transferring the liquid from here, from the press, over into the generator. And we're sending the power from the generator back over to the press. So it becomes a self-sustaining system after you get it up and running. You just have to give this guy power from the get-go. If we take a look, you see him already filled up with Crystal Flux, or CF. Remember, that's equivalent to RF, and we see him full of canola oil. Now this oil generator burning canola oil will produce 40 CF per tick for 100 ticks. That's for half of a bucket. So half a bucket of oil will run for 100 ticks and produce 40 CF per tick. Now that is about the same as our heat collector. So it is 10 more than our coal generator. So it's better than our coal generator, but not as good, but equal to our heat collector. But our heat collector requires less maintenance, and it doesn't require a device here that takes power. So we get the full 40 RF per tick, where this guy, we're actually losing some of the RF per tick to the thing I just broke, because I'm in creative, and yeah. Oopsie. I should probably put myself in not creative so I don't do stupid things like that. But then I can't fly around, so let's go ahead and go into survival just for the time being. We'll go into creative when we get down here, and so we can do some flying around, because they're much bigger machines. But that's the basic oil generator with the basic canola oil. Now remember, the next step up is we add a refining process. So each one of these tiers kind of builds on the tier before it. So this tier builds on this tier. That tier builds on this tier. So it just kind of moves along the path here. So we still have our press, so we're still pressing the canola. We still have the hopper and back, just like we did before. We're still giving it power. Again, you have to seed the power with some other power source just to get it going. Now we're adding a new device called a fermenting barrel. This guy takes the canola oil and turns them into refined canola oil. And now it does not take power to do that. It does it free of charge for you. It's not the fastest thing in the world, but it's not terribly slow either. It's enough to keep this system running self-sufficiently, no problem. So again, we're using the blue lasers, which are fluid transfer, to send the basic canola oil from here to over here, and then the refined canola oil from here into our generator, which we see right here, full of refined canola. And then, of course, the red laser sends the power back to our canola press. Now this guy is a basic oil generator with refined canola oil, and he produces 80 CF per tick for 120 ticks. And again, this is half a bucket, based on a half a bucket of the refined canola oil. So remember, this guy was 40 CF per tick for 100 ticks. He's 80 CF per tick for 120 ticks. So slightly longer, but double the power. So he's producing double the amount of power for just a little bit longer than that guy down there. So it's definitely worth it. And remember, this requires no energy to run. So if you're going to have that, there's no reason not to have this. I would never recommend you build this setup right here. It's a total waste. Again, go with the heat collector. If that's all the power you need, just get you a heat collector. Now, if you're going to go with oil, start at this setup right here. This is going to be your base startup. The extra 40 CF per tick that it produces over this guy is definitely worth it. So now let's take a look at the next step. Now here's where things start to get a little bit complicated, because we're still going to press the oil and turn it into canola, press the canola and turn it into oil. Remember, this guy does take power. We're still going to ferment just like we did before. No power needed. We're going to turn the oil into refined canola oil. Now we're going to pipe that, through our blue lasers into a device called a fluid placer. And it's just going to place fluid out into the world. And what's going to happen is we're going to drop these canola seeds into this fluid. Then we're going to hit them with a laser, this atomic reconstructor. What happens is that atomic reconstructor turns the canola seed into the crystallized canola seed. Remember what we did over here? If I come all the way back over here, remember when we used these crystallized canola seeds and we turned the refined oil into the crystallized oil? That's exactly what's happening. This is an automated machine for doing that. So I just have a whole heap of canola seeds up here and a whole heap of canola right here. This would all be piped in from your farm. And like I said, it's just dropping the canola seed in here. It's hitting it with the laser. Then it's popping the refined canola oil down in here. Now this guy is a fluid collector. So after all that's happened, he just picks up the fluid. So he picks up the now crystallized oil. Then he's sending that crystallized oil again through the blue fluid transfer lasers over here into the oil generator. So we're filled up with crystallized oil. And I'll show you the back here in a second, but this guy produces, using the crystallized oil, same oil generator, but using the crystallized oil, he produces 100 CF per tick for 280 ticks. That is a lot more. So if we look back over here, this is 120 ticks. 80 CF per tick at 120 ticks. Well, this is 100 CF per tick. Not much more power per tick, but for a lot more ticks. So he can run a lot longer. A decent setup. I don't recommend this one. If you're going to go this far, you might as well go that far. So I really recommend 2 and 4 as your best options for building. 1 and 3 are kind of in the middle of the road, and I just don't see them as being really worth it. Now, the way this guy works and the way I've got all the timing set up to do all these things is I'm using a bog standard Etho hopper clock back here, and he's sending a signal out. Now, the first thing we want to happen is we want this dropper up here. Now, this is just an actually additions. It's called a, what is it? Precision dropper, I believe is the name of it. Where is it? Where is it? Where are you? Where are you? There we go. Automatic precision dropper, and it basically drops dead center of the block every time. Like a Minecraft dropper kind of spreads things out all over the place randomly. This guy drops dead center every single time. So we've got a redstone tick Now we've got a 1 pulse limiter here, and it sends the redstone signal up into, now here I'm going to flip back into creative so I can fly, so I can show you better. Just got to remember not to punch things. It sends the signal up here into this block right here. Now this block is connected to our automatic dropper, and if you take a redstone torch, just a regular old redstone torch, and you bap one of these machines, when you place them down first, they come in where it says redstone mode right in the middle of the screen. It'll say deactivate. That's the normal mode it's in. So turning on, providing it a redstone signal will turn it off, turn the machine off. Otherwise it's on all the time. So without setting this to pulse mode like it is right now, it's just going to be dropping stuff all the time. As soon as it gets something, it's going to drop it. If you right click it with a torch like this, see right now it's dropping, it's in deactivation mode. It's just dropping a ton of stuff. If I right click it again, it's going to switch back to pulse. Pulse is what you're going to want, because that way as it gets the redstone signal, it'll pulse 1 time. And you want to set every machine here to pulse. So you want to set my hands all over everywhere. Put the fluid collector in pulse mode. You want to set the fluid placer in pulse mode, and you want to set the atomic reconstructor in pulse mode. Now the atomic reconstructor is the next thing to happen. So we got this guy happens first, then the atomic reconstructor needs to go off, and we've got him on a 1, 2, 3 tick delay. So that works out pretty darn well for him. The next thing we want is the fluid to show up. So we've got the fluid on a 4, 5 tick delay. Just adding 2 repeaters here. Then we add a couple more repeaters because we want a much longer delay on the fluid collector. So we've got an 8, 9, 10 tick delay. And this actually could have been done with 3 repeaters and just put this guy on 2 ticks, and that would have worked as well. And he's using this block at the bottom down here to provide the redstone signal, so it'll pulse. And that is how we're getting our refined canola oil to turn into our crystallized oil. Then we're just piping it over here into our oil generator. Again, 100 CF per tick for 280 ticks. Let's say a little bit more complicated setup. If you have timers from other mods in your pack, like RF Tools has a great variable timer, you could replace this Etho hopper clock with a variable timer from another mod, and that would work just fine. So now we come over to the Big Daddy. This is max power production for actually additions. And in the modern modded world, it's really not that much power, let's be honest. But it is pretty cool, and it's definitely fun to build. It's definitely fun to figure out how it works and how to get it to work, because it requires a lot of thinking and a lot of different parts of actually additions to actually work. You'll see we have an empowerer back there. We're using phantom interfaces. We're using phantom redstone. We're using fluid placers and the fluid collectors and automatic droppers and atomic reconstructor back over there. We still got our Etho hopper clock. We got a bunch of stuff going on in here, and you can see all manner of craziness. Let's kind of walk through it. So we start just like we do with all of them, and we're pressing canola. We're turning it into canola oil. We're going just like always into the fermenting barrel, and we're turning canola oil into refined canola oil. Just like always, we're piping that over into our fluid placer. It is placing it down, and instead of dropping in a instead of dropping in a canola seed and then crystallizing the seed while it's in here like we did over there, For this setup, it's easier to do it somewhere else. So I'm actually crystallizing the seeds back here. We'll take a look at that in a minute. Then we have the fluid collector picking up the crystallized oil and piping it over into a fluid placer. So here's more crystallized oil. It's placing it down. We have another automatic dropper, and this one is full of empowered canola seeds, and I'll show you how to make those. It's back over there with the empowerer. Now we're picking the empowered oil up with another fluid collector and sending it out to our generators. And this is enough because these guys run so long. Now let's take a look. Using the empowered oil, the bog standard oil generator. Now these figures are for one generator. I obviously have more than one. But for one generator, it will produce 120 CF per tick for 400 ticks. And that's where the bonus comes. It's not that much more power than this setup right here. And here I go breaking things again. Because, yeah, reasons. You notice this guy produces 100 CF per tick. The other one produces 120 CF per tick. It's not that much more power, but boy howdy, look at the number of ticks that it will run. So this guy runs 280 ticks. This guy runs 400 ticks. What that allows you to do, that extra time, is to add more generators. Because you're burning less fuel. You burn less fuel, you can use more generators. Just that simple. So, we can run more to produce even more power. So we're producing, 120 RF per tick in each one of these generators. So let's take a look at what we did. So this is our power setup, and we got a bunch of seeds in there because we're overflowing. I didn't set up long-term storage for these guys. If I were to do that, do this in a regular world and not just a test world, then I would have something bigger than this chest sitting here that would hold all this stuff. But this is just a test world. So what happens is this guy drops a whole bunch of just bog standard canola seeds. And the way he does that is based off this etho hopper clock. Now right here is a dot of redstone. That dot of redstone has a phantom redstone attached to this block right here. Now these are all actually additions blocks. I will probably do another tutorial on phantom interfaces and show you how they work and what they do. They're really cool. I never see anybody use them, but you definitely need these in your life. They are pretty awesome. They can. It's not really wireless transmission of stuff, but it kind of is. It definitely fills a niche need. Very, very handy. So just know for now that redstone signal is being sent up here. Now, when it's on, it runs through here and runs through a pulse extender. Then we're inverting the signal here. And then here we're inverting the signal again. We'll take a look at that in a second. But this is what runs our automatic precision dropper. And you can see it receiving the canola seeds from back over there and just dropping them as long as it doesn't have power. When it does have power, it stops. Now what happens here, this is where we're going to lock this hopper that's down here. This is a vanilla Minecraft hopper just sitting down there, and we're going to lock that bad boy. So what's happening is the redstone signal's jumping down here, coming out and going into another pulse extender, and then just shooting into this block. This block is powering that hopper and making it not collect items. So it'll sit here and hold the items. The laser has the opportunity to fire into the items, and then the items will drop down. Now the laser is pretty much just set to activate all the time. So it's just going to pulse every so often. When it has enough power, it'll just do a pulse. And that lets us get all of this beautiful crystallized canola seeds. Then we're just piping that back into our laser network there. Now let's take a look at how we're doing the empowering. Well, actually, let's come back over here and take a look at our two fluid setups. So we're doing the same thing that we're doing over here for this setup. Is basically the same thing. We just don't have the laser at the bottom. So the redstone is coming straight in here, and just like with the other one, we're splitting off into our different paths. Same even delay from the other ones. You can see at one point I was even testing, I had a, that's not necessary, I had a laser down here. So I was doing testing the exact same way. But I'm using the same delays. So here's the delay for our placer, and then we come over here and it's the exact same delay for our collector. And then of course we're sending the signal up into this block right here for our dropper. So the dropper goes off first, then the fluid placer, then the fluid collector. And it's the exact same thing over here. The only difference is this redstone is going direct into this line. Here I'm using a phantom interface, and it's pulling from this piece of redstone right there. So whatever happens to this piece of redstone happens to this block. So it's sending this, whenever he gets lit up, he gets lit up and he sends it out. And it's the exact same setup. Same delay for the placer, no delay for the dropper, and same delay for the collector. So both of these are, these two are pretty much the same thing. Now, to do the empowering, I tell you, this took a lot of thinking. I really had to sit down and scratch my noggin on how to make this work, just using actually additions. In the past, when I've done this, I usually use Ender IO. But I didn't put Ender IO in here. This is 1.12.2, is the version of Minecraft I'm in right now. If you look up there in the top left corner. And Ender IO did just come out for 1.12.2, but it's still new, it's still a little bit buggy, and not going to do it. Plus, I really wanted to stick to actually additions, so I wanted to scratch my noggin and figure out how to do it with actually additions. So this is how you do it. This is how you make it work. So remember, the outside pedestals have to be powered. The inside one does not. I keep picking stuff up. I don't know why I do that. So the inside one does not need to be powered, but the outside ones do. So the red lasers are power. The green lasers are for item transmission. Now, over here I've got my creative chest, which is canola seeds. And that's going into this item interface. And what the item interface does is it acts like a hopper pulling from the chest. So any item that hits this interface is going to be brought into our laser network. And you just saw some flipping up there. So those canola seeds are being sent around to all four of these pedestals. They're also being shipped over here to get crystallized. The crystallized seeds are coming back. They're being sent into, which one? This one right here. But they're also being sent over here to this phantom interface. Now this phantom interface is tied to this empowerer right here. That's why it has the ender particles, just like we did with the redstone particles. The redstone, you saw the ender particles. Like this redstone, you see the ender particles. That tells you it's connected to a phantom interface. So anything we put in this block is going to show up down here. Then this guy gets empowered. The seed gets empowered. He gets sucked back up into the phantom interface, gets pulled out of the hopper, with the this interface hopper. He gets put back into the laser network and sent over here to this dropper right here. So here are our empowered canola seeds. So this is a completely self-contained setup. It'll keep running itself forever. As long as we provide it with canola, which goes right here, and canola seeds, which goes right there. So if you just set up a big old honking farm out there of canola, that will get you canola and seeds, and lets you run this thing forever. Everything else is self-sustained. So the generators produce more than enough power to run all the power requirements of the setup, plus extra to run your base. And this, if you notice, all these generators are backed up with empowered oil. So every one of them has plenty of empowered oil. All of these placers and collectors are backed up with oil. The fermenting barrel is backed up with oil. The press is backed up with oil. We can add more generators, is what that means. You know, we can add probably another, I'm gonna bet 3 to 5 more generators. So we can get roughly a little over 1,000, 1,200 RF per tick out of this setup, I would think. I haven't built a max size one, I just added 5, but it's more than enough to run our system here. I did find it 4 is just about enough to keep the machines running. The Empowerer does take a lot of power, but 5 definitely gives you a surplus, and plenty of it. So this is an overly complex setup. Wouldn't really recommend it for late game. I mean, it is a late game build, and I wouldn't recommend doing it because the amount of power it really produces is just substandard to other mods that are out there. But it's definitely fun to build just to do. If you got the nerve to try and build this early game, hey, go for it. It's more than enough power to get you going in the early game. But I would probably lean more towards something like this setup right here for an early game, and even for maybe a second tier power system, and I would probably build something like this guy here for the first tier, if you can find the lava. The coal generator works fine too, especially if you throw lava buckets in it, but you lose 10 CF per tick, so I'd rather go with the lava and get the extra 10. This would be really cool to do a big setup on the leaf eating generator. Potentially tie it with some other mods. You can do some pretty cool stuff, I think, with this guy. And it would look pretty neat. And you have some devices, maybe some long range breakers, phantom breakers, that kind of thing to get rid of the logs. But definitely cool. But I think that is all the time I got for today. I sure do appreciate you guys coming to hang out with me as always, and I hope that you learned a little bit of something you didn't know about Actually Addition's power and how all this rigmarole works. So, until next time, get out there and make some noise. See ya!